Boo, what's up? This is my part 2 video. I have to be a little more quiet than normal because it's currently 12:40 in the morning and everyone's home and everyone's asleep. So anyway, where did I leave? Elena goes up to Strand saying that someone's in dire need of a doctor, and she ends up bringing Strand to a medical tent where there's a woman who apparently is preggo and is about to pop. And I said in the previous video my thoughts about pregnant women in the apocalypse, so if you want to see that, go in the previous video, like you should. But anyway, Strand, he's not that kind. He tells them, he's not that kind of doctor. Like, he's the one who bandages you and all that stuff. He's not the one that helps you give birth. He's not. What was those people called that pretty much do home deliveries? There's some people who don't give birth in a hospital. They give birth at home, and they have midwife. Midwife. Strand's basically telling them, I'm not a midwife. I could help with your injuries, but I don't know how to help you give birth to a child. But the pregnant woman's husband pretty much threatens Strand with a knife, and he's like, you help my wife or else, right? So it's like, okay. Anyway, back at the ranch, remember Troy pretty much told Nick and Madison to get out of the truck, right? And they're pretty much looking at the ranch from outside the ranch. They're literally outside the gates, and I believe there's also a guard there, so they can't really walk in, right? But anyway, Nick, he's kind of wary about the ranch. He doesn't like it, so he refuses to stay at the ranch. But Madison's like, this ranch is your best bet for medical treatment for Luciana once she gets here, right? And so, they end up getting introduced to Troy and Jake's father. His name, I believe, was Jeremiah Otto or something like that, and he pretty much introduces himself to Madison and Nick and tells the guard to let them in. And as Madison and Nick come in the ranch, Otto shows Madison and Nick around the ranch and explains that he initially started the camp, to prepare for the fall of democracy. And Madison starts telling Otto about Troy, and she's very critical about Troy, because remember, Troy is so sketch, like seriously sketch. But Otto, he's like defending his son's behavior, stating, he was carrying out a mission at the depot. And, Otto senses, Madison and Nick's hostility. Madison's hostility is toward his son, Troy, while Nick's hostility is just, he doesn't want to be at the ranch, right? So, sensing that hostility, he points out to both of them, a lot of people, most people, would be grateful to be at this ranch, right? Because apparently it might be some sort of safe house, probably. But anyway, Otto brings Madison and Nick to their own bunkhouse and leaves them with a key. And, Nick, he's grumbling to his mom, basically saying, you're way too nice to this Otto guy. I mean, why are you being not nice to Otto? His son Troy literally tried to kill us, right? And Madison, she pretty much tells him the reason why he's being nice to Otto, despite the fact that, Otto's son Troy tried to kill them, is that she doesn't really have a plan. And that until she comes up with a plan, she wants to play nice. Mainly to buy some time to, make a plan and, do whatever they need to do, right? Which is, I understand. It's like, if you don't have any plan, you try to buy time to basically think of a plan at least, and in order to buy time, she's just acting nice. So basically, she's doing what Carol did in the predecessor Walking Dead. Because remember, when they first went to Alexandria in the predecessor show, The Walking Dead, remember Carol? Carol pretended to be a typical, housewife grandma type thing, because, she wore those typical house mother looking outfits with the sweater vests and shit like that, or something like that. And she would bake cookies and be nice to all the neighbors and pretend that she doesn't know how to hold a gun or a knife properly. Carol blended in because she didn't want she didn't know anyone in Alexandria, and she didn't want them to know what Carol was capable of, right? And so in a way, Madison's doing the same thing Carol's doing in this situation. Like, Carol, brand new to Alexandria, doesn't know anybody in Alexandria, so she blends in mainly so she could hide who she really is from the Alexandrians, but at the same time so she could observe these Alexandrians and see their weaknesses and all that shit too. So Madison's doing the same thing. This little ranch, she doesn't know anyone in there, right? The only person she knows is Nick, because Luciana's not back, Alicia's not back, and for all she knows, because she doesn't know about Travis, Travis is not back. All she has is her son. They're literally surrounded by people they don't know, so she's trying to blend in, you know, get a lowdown on who these people are, and maybe like make niceys so maybe they could take over. Because remember, Carol said the same thing in Alexandria when she was talking to Rick and Daryl that one night in Alexandria, where they're like, we'll play niceys, and if we have to, we'll take over the place. And I think that's exactly what Madison's doing. She's pretty much doing what Carol's doing in The Walking Dead when they reach Alexandria. Anyway, that night, everyone in the helicopter, that's still left in the helicopter, Charlene, who I believe was the pilot, Jake and Alicia, who are the only ones left from, well, to be fair, Charlene was the pilot of the chopper. Jake was obviously there right next to Charlene. At the beginning of the helicopter, it was Alicia, Travis, and injured Luciana. They lost Travis, so it's just Charlene, Jake, Alicia, and still a very injured Luciana. But you know, Charlene takes first watch. I'm guessing they just stopped to make a campfire. And, you know, Charlene's taking first watch, and Jake and Alicia are sitting by the campfire. And Jake tries to explain that Troy, he's always had some sort of behavioral problem since he was a child, which is pretty much what I predicted in a previous video. I think it was like my 3 videos for episode 1. I made a statement where I believe that maybe Troy has had a long time mental thing going on. Like maybe he has like a mental disability where like he's actually legitimately sick in the head. And that's a prediction I made, and I think Jake pretty much confirmed it, because Jake pretty much explains to Alicia that Trey has had behavioral problems since he was a child. It could be all in the head, you know what I mean? Troy could be sick in the head, and he's probably been sick in the head since he was a child, according to Jake. And anyway, Jake's like trying to explain that, and all of a sudden they hear a warning whistle from Charlene, because she takes first watch. And so Jake gives Alicia a gun, and they pretty much both run off to investigate. And apparently that warning whistle was, apparently there was infected, and they attack Jake and pin him to a tree. And Alicia arrives in time to save Jake by shooting the infected in the head, and then she takes out 2 more infected that were approaching in the darkness. And as that's over, unfortunately, Jake and Alicia discover poor Charlene's dead body. So basically, that warning whistle of Charlene was basically the last thing you hear of Charlene before she gets killed by the infected. And so, you know, to prevent her from turning, Jake shoots her in the head. Anyway, back to Strand in the hotel. Strand helped deliver that baby, and unfortunately, Elena tells Strand that he must leave immediately. But Hector tells Strand that there's another patient in need of his services before he leaves, right? And so he brings Strand to Eileen's room. If you guys remember who Eileen is, Eileen, do you remember that wedding in the previous season that wedding that took place in the hotel? And Eileen is I believe Eileen was the mother of the bride, because remember, in that very same hotel there was a wedding, and the whole apocalypse happened, and some of the workers trapped the party guests inside, because I believe it was the father of the bride that got sick during the wedding and ended up dying and turning, and I think he ended up biting his daughter. But like when all that happened, some of the workers pretty much locked all the wedding guests in there, and I think it was the mother of the bride who managed to survive, and she's still there at the hotel. I believe that's Eileen. Anyway, yeah, Hector brings Strand to Eileen's room and asks him to convince her to eat because apparently she hasn't been eating. She pretty much holed herself up inside her room ever since she stabbed Strand. Because remember, there was this one moment where I know Strand and I think Madison and I forgot who else, but they were in one of the hotel rooms and there's a knock on the door, and I think Elena told Strand that it was Hector, so open the door, but instead of Hector, it ended up being Eileen, and she ended up stabbing Strand. So ever since she stabbed Strand, she pretty much holed herself off in her own room, and she's all depressed and despondent over the death of her daughter and the rest of the partygoers, like her husband and son-in-law and everything. And she hasn't eaten. And Eileen actually apologizes to Strand for what she did, like stabbing him and everything. And then she suspiciously asks him, hey, can you fix my broken balcony door? And quite frankly, that is the most random thing to ask, because if she has been so depressed that she holds herself inside the... If she's been so depressed from the death of, like, pretty much her family, everyone she knows in that wedding, to the point where she's so silent and depressed and despondent and she doesn't eat, and that whole depression led her to stab Strand, mainly because, you know, remember, I believe, no, I think the son-in-law, the hubby, actually survived, I think, but remember, Strand was the one that volunteered to stab, because I think the bride was turned undead, and I think the husband kept her inside the honeymoon suite in the last episode. Remember, Strand volunteered to kill the wife in the honeymoon suite, so I think that's why Eileen stabbed him, because, you know, Strand was the one that actually officially killed her daughter. But anyway, like, I found it odd that she was so depressed that she would pretty much clam up and then stab Strand, and all of a sudden she's up. I kind of understand the apologizing, but I don't understand why she randomly wants him to fix her broken balcony door. And I get kind of worried because it's the balcony, right? And she claims that she wanted fresh air, but the door's stuck. I mean, you don't need the balcony door for that. I mean, you could get out of your room and just go downstairs and go outside. You don't really need the balcony for fresh air. That's why I was highly suspicious of this. The fact that she wants her broken balcony door fixed because it's stuck, because she wants fresh air where she could just go outside her room, right? Anyway, my suspicions were pretty much confirmed because the moment Strand takes care of the door and pretty much tells Eileen this little speech that he now has hope for a new generation because he delivered a baby, Eileen just randomly gives a box with a key inside to Strand. Apparently it was a wedding gift intended for her daughter and son-in-law, and then I got even more suspicious, and my suspicions were pretty much confirmed because after that, Eileen jumps off the balcony to her death, stating that basically before she jumped, she said there is no more generations, and she pretty much jumped off the the balcony, and pretty much confirmed my suspicions from day one. I was like, I had a feeling the reason why she wanted the balcony door fixed is because she wanted to commit suicide. Because if she wanted fresh air, she could have just easily came out of her room and just go outside. So, obviously, she wanted the balcony door in particular. But I'm currently running out of time, so I'll see you in a part 3 video. Bye, guys.